Boom. The moment the ancient stone seal exploded in Zhantai Lu Li's jade hand, a blinding light erupted from within, flooding the entire area. The light was so dazzling that it turned the dark red sky into a bright daylight. Whoosh, whoosh. Amidst the overwhelming light, a sharp sound of rushing wind filled the air. Countless streaks of flowing light shot out from within, each one seemingly wrapped in ancient battle runes. These battle runes shot up into the sky, heading straight for the dark region, where they merged with the gray beams of light bursting from the stone army's heavenly spirit caps. Buzz, buzz. As the light beams fused together, they expanded at an astonishing speed, swelling violently, as if a volcano were erupting, releasing an explosive battle will that surged out uncontrollably. The intense light soared into the sky, banishing the darkness from the entire area, before converging on the stone throne, which was covered in battle runes. The ancient stone throne trembled violently, and the battle runes inscribed upon it flared to life, as if awakening the full extent of its power. Clang, clang. 4 battle rune chains shot out from the stone throne, rapidly expanding. The runes on the chains burst with a brilliant light, radiating a powerful and awe-inspiring battle will. These changes happened in the blink of an eye. The Heavenly Formation Emperor, who had just tried to kill Mu Chen, was immediately alarmed by the massive disturbance below. A look of horror appeared on its distorted face. No! It let out a sharp, piercing scream. The black, ghostly runes etched into its face squirmed rapidly, and dark, corrosive chi surged forth, attempting to counter the battle will on the rune chains. Boom. However, the formation in this area had already been fully activated by Zhantai Lu Li, its power unmatched. Moreover, due to its earlier attempt to kill Mu Chen, the ghostly runes had been split, scattering its own power. As a result, its resistance was ineffective. The 4 rune chains bound its limbs tightly, and with a tremendous crash, it was forcibly pulled down toward the stone throne, covered in battle runes. Roar! The Heavenly Formation Emperor howled in madness, its eyes turning red. It clearly sensed the deadly danger, knowing that if it was pulled back to the stone throne, it would be truly suppressed by the formation. At this moment, it was far from its peak strength. But no matter how it struggled, it was all in vain. Its body was forcibly dragged down, and with a violent impact, it was seated heavily on the ancient stone throne. I will kill all of you. Just before being forced onto the throne, the Heavenly Formation Emperor locked its bloodshot eyes onto Mu Chen. With a roar, one of the ghostly runes aimed at Mu Chen accelerated rapidly. Clearly, it intended to go down fighting. Mu Chen, already retreating at full speed, changed his expression. His phoenix wings flapped wildly, and spiritual energy surged within him. His speed increased to the point where he left blurry afterimages in the sky. He could feel how terrifying the power of the Heavenly Formation Emperor's final counterattack was. If it struck him, even with his strong physical body, he would likely face a deadly threat. Boom, boom. The dark streak of light, like a destructive force, tore through space, its speed as fast as lightning. In just a few breaths, it appeared in front of Mu Chen and rapidly closed in. Mu Chen looked at the approaching streak of dark light and gritted his teeth. He knew there was no escaping now. Immediately, golden light surged within him, and the dragon phoenix golden armor reappeared. The true dragon mark glowed on his chest as powerful spiritual energy converged around him. At this moment, he clearly activated all his defenses, preparing to take the hit head-on. Though he knew this was the worst possible option, Mu Chen had no choice but to face it. However, just as Mu Chen was about to exhaust all his defensive measures to endure the terrifying attack, a sharp, sorrowful sound suddenly rang out from the stone throne. The Heavenly Formation Emperor was bound to the stone throne, and the numerous bright battle runes on the throne began to squirm, ultimately crawling toward his body like worms, covering him completely. The thick black chi surrounding the Heavenly Formation Emperor rapidly dissipated at that moment, and the ghostly face rune on his face let out a piercing, shrill scream. As the black chi vanished, it became increasingly faint. The dense battle runes completely covered the Heavenly Formation Emperor's body, and at the instant they did, the ear-piercing scream abruptly ceased. The ghostly face rune on his face was also melted away by the violent battle runes. At the moment the ghostly face rune melted, the faint ethereal light from the other half of the ghostly face rune, which was about to strike Mu Chen, let out a sharp scream as well. Then, with a bang, it shattered into countless black light spots, scattering through the air. Mu Chen, already fully armored, froze for a moment upon seeing this, then let out a relieved sigh. It was only then that he realized his back was drenched in cold sweat. He hadn't been entirely confident he could forcefully block that ethereal light attack. Earlier, he had simply been pushing himself to the limit. However, avoiding the edge of the blade was naturally a relief for Mu Chen. Wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, Mu Chen dismantled all his defensive barriers. Just then, a sound of wind tearing through the air reached his ears, and he saw Zhantai Lu Li approaching on her wheelchair. Zhantai Lu Li's face was pale, clearly indicating she had expended a great deal of energy earlier. "Thank you," Mu Chen said, smiling as he looked at her. His tone was noticeably gentler than before, showing that he now trusted her more. Clearly, Zhantai Lu Li had not played any tricks during their earlier cooperation. At least, he no longer felt the same level of wariness he had at the start. Zhantai Lu Li gently smiled, her lips curling up. "It's rare for someone to entrust their life to me after knowing I could deceive them. Since that's the case, I suppose I can't disappoint you, can I?" Mu Chen grinned. It's been a pleasure working together. He didn't mind Zhantai Lu Li's earlier playful tricks, because if it had been him, he might have done the same thing. After all, from her perspective, they had probably just been free labor. But now, the situation was different. They were in the same boat, which made their collaboration genuine. Zhantai Lu Li didn't squander Mu Chen's trust cheaply, which made Mu Chen warm to her a little more. Zhantai Lu Li nodded lightly, and then her beautiful eyes turned toward the stone throne in the dark area ahead. She exchanged a brief glance with Mu Chen, and then both of them carefully glided forward, stopping at a distance of about 100 feet from the stone throne. They paused at that point, not daring to approach carelessly, until they confirmed whether the evil spirit inside the Heavenly Formation Emperor had been completely eradicated. Getting too close might lead to everything being undone. They cautiously observed the ancient stone throne. The body of the Heavenly Formation Emperor was completely covered in dazzling battle runes, and this continued for nearly 10 minutes before the two of them noticed that the runes were beginning to fade and slowly dissipate. As the battle runes vanished, Mu Chen and Zhantai Lu Li immediately tensed, their spiritual energy surging as they prepared for any sudden changes. Under their vigilant gazes, the battle runes on the Heavenly Formation Emperor's body completely disappeared, and his face reappeared. However, this time, the hideous and distorted expression had vanished entirely, replaced by a peaceful appearance. His face still appeared pale, but it no longer carried the sinister aura it once had. He sat quietly on the stone throne. Suddenly, his tightly shut eyes seemed to twitch slightly, and then, under the wary and tense gazes of Mu Chen and Zhantai Lu Li, his eyes slowly opened. He opened his eyes, then stiffly twisted his neck. He lowered his head to look at his palm, then gazed at the dark expanse around him, and at the stone army below. Finally, he let out a long sigh. After countless years, has that evil spirit finally been sealed and slain? His voice sounded hoarse, softer, and more weathered compared to before. Mu Chen and Zhantai Lu Li exchanged a glance, not daring to speak and disturb him. At that moment, the figure sitting on the stone throne also raised his head, his gaze shifting towards Mu Chen and Zhantai Lu Li. As soon as their eyes met, both of them tensed, instinctively adopting a cautious stance. Was it you two who activated the battle formation, sealed that evil spirit, and awakened the remnants of my consciousness? The figure smiled gently upon seeing Mu Chen and Zhantai Lu Li. The two exchanged a glance again and nodded. "May I ask who you are, senior?" Mu Chen hesitated for a moment before cautiously asking. The figure chuckled, then raised a hand, pressing down lightly. Immediately, the overwhelming battle intent that had been sweeping from below quieted, finally flowing back into the stone army. Seeing this, both Mu Chen and Zhantai Lu Li couldn't help but show expressions of immense relief. The ease with which he controlled the stone army's battle intent was something only the Heavenly Formation Emperor could manage. In the dark crimson world, light surged, pushing back the darkness. With a casual wave, the Heavenly Formation Emperor subdued the terrifying battle intent of the stone army below. The ease with which he handled it left Mu Chun and Zhan Tai Luli in awe, yet they felt relieved. After all, the identity of the figure before them was now unmistakably clear. After revealing his identity, the Heavenly Formation Emperor's aged gaze swept across the space. The scenery here was the same as it had been in the past, but he understood that the great thousand worlds had surely changed beyond recognition over the years. His eyes finally lingered on the stone army below. A trace of sadness appeared on his face. This stone army had sacrificed themselves to help him suppress the evil spirit within his body, using their spiritual power to petrify their bodies and turn into statues, forever bound here to keep the evil sealed. Mu Chun and Zhan Tai Luli exchanged glances, careful not to disturb the Heavenly Formation Emperor, who was lost in sentiment. They both understood that the current emperor was merely a fragment of his former soul. If they angered him now, he might simply dissipate, making all their efforts in vain. Fortunately, the Heavenly Formation Emperor didn't remain in that state for long. After a brief moment, he looked up, offering a faint smile to Mu Chun and Zhan Tai Luli. You two are still young, yet you managed to reach this place and slay that evil spirit. You've truly surprised me. By luck, I obtained a battle seal left behind by the senior, which allowed me to activate the battle formation. Otherwise, with our strength alone, we could never have defeated that evil spirit, Zhan Tai Luli said, extending a delicate hand. In her hand was a broken stone shard, the remnant left from when she had triggered the stone seal. The Heavenly Formation Emperor raised his hand, and the stone shard fell into his grasp. He glanced at it and smiled. So it's the stone battle seal I left behind. You truly have a connection with me, girl. Zhan Tai Luli's eyes brightened with surprise. She then glanced at Mu Chun and said, Senior, if not for his risking everything to block the evil spirit head-on, we might not have been able to awaken you. Mu Chun was momentarily stunned by Zhan Tai Luli speaking up for him. He nodded in gratitude. She hadn't claimed all the credit for herself, and this made him appreciate her even more. Compared to Xiao Tian, Zhan Tai Luli's character was clearly much stronger, and she was someone worth befriending. The Heavenly Formation Emperor chuckled, then spoke with a meaningful tone. Although I was asleep, after being awakened, I understood that had you claimed all the credit, perhaps I wouldn't have thought much of you. His laughter contained genuine appreciation. Zhan Tai Luli and Mu Chun exchanged a glance. The former secretly patted her full chest, looking relieved, which made Mu Chun unable to stop himself from smiling. After losing her calm and commanding role during the battle formation commands, Zhan Tai Luli seemed just like a young girl, only a little older than him. I was once a dead man, and now that you two have come here, it must be fate. Although, according to the rules, battle array masters are passed down one by one, I am about to fade away. These rules no longer matter. The Heavenly Formation Emperor said slowly. Mu Chun and Zhan Tai Luli felt a surge of joy upon hearing this, followed by a moment of realization. No wonder information about battle array masters was so scarce. It was all passed down from one person to the next. You both have impressive talents in battle intent. You're good candidates, and you qualify to become battle array masters, the Heavenly Formation Emperor continued. His words made Mu Chun and Zhan Tai Luli's faces light up. They had risked everything, venturing into this death ruin, for one reason, to gain knowledge about battle array masters. Battle array masters are derived from spiritual array masters, yet they are two sides of the same coin, each with its own merits. Spiritual array masters use formations to manipulate the powers of heaven and earth, while battle array masters focus on human strength overcoming heaven's power. The Heavenly Formation Emperor's voice, full of age, echoed through the dark region. Mu Chun and Zhan Tai Luli listened intently, not daring to let their attention wander. Information about battle array masters was extremely rare. However, the threshold to become a battle array master is incredibly harsh. Ordinary powerful beings, those with strong mental wills, can lead a troop's battle intent, but their control is limited, and they can't surpass 10,000. The Heavenly Formation Emperor explained. Mu Chun and Zhan Tai Luli nodded silently. Many people, like army commanders, could lead a battle's intent, but their control was very limited. Once the battle intent reached a certain level, their mental will couldn't control it, and forcing it would result in a backlash. The reason for this is not hard to guess. It depends on the strength of the mental will. The Heavenly Formation Emperor said calmly. Mental will is different from spiritual energy. It is intangible, ethereal, and difficult for ordinary people to even touch. Usually, the strength of one's mental will is innate. Even those born with strong mental wills can't control the battle intent of 1,000,000 troops. Then how can battle array masters control millions, even tens of millions of troops? Zhang Luli couldn't help but ask. The Heavenly Formation Emperor smiled slightly. Because battle array masters can cultivate their mental will. Cultivate mental will. Chen and Zhang Luli's pupils almost simultaneously contracted, their faces showing expressions of disbelief. Mental will, something so mysterious and intangible, could actually be cultivated? They had never heard of such a thing before. Senior, how can one cultivate mental will? Zhang Luli asked incredulously. Mental will was elusive and intangible, and even powerful beings could barely touch it, let alone cultivate it. Everything in the world can be cultivated. Why not mental will? The Heavenly Formation Emperor countered. Chen and Zhang Luli exchanged a glance, then fell silent. In the end, they could only smile bitterly. The Heavenly Formation Emperor before them was a true master, and his words carried undeniable authority. No matter how incredulous they felt, they had to accept the reality. The method of cultivating mental will is the most precious thing for any battle array master. Even in ancient times, it was extremely rare. If it weren't for a direct lineage descendant, it would never be passed on easily. The Heavenly Formation Emperor continued. Chen remained silent. So, the lineage of battle array masters was so tightly sealed. No wonder, after the ancient catastrophe, it had become so rare. Closing the doors and keeping things to oneself would never allow things to flourish. The rarity of battle array masters is not only because of this. It's also because cultivating mental will is extremely dangerous. If cultivation fails and the mental will collapses, the mind will suffer irreparable damage. It's hard to recover. Therefore, if the most suitable successor cannot be found, battle array masters won't teach the method of cultivating mental will easily. Otherwise, if one passes it down, another dies. Who would bear that? Mental will, a concept so ethereal and elusive, is unfamiliar even to many top-tier powerhouses. Most of their mental will is still at a primitive stage. If injured or confused, it leads to a truly terrifying consequence that shakes the mind. Both Chen and Zhang Luli's expressions were somber, seemingly shaken by the dangers of this mental cultivation technique. After all, failing in the cultivation of a divine technique would simply mean failure, but failing in the mental cultivation technique could result in becoming a fool. This method, ordinary people truly wouldn't dare to cultivate easily. However, as Chen felt a sense of unease, he also found it fascinating. The great thousand worlds are shrouded in mystery, and while spiritual energy cultivation is the foundational path, there are many extraordinary individuals who have forged other paths. If one reaches the peak of those paths, they might not be weaker than the limits of spiritual energy cultivation. The key is simply that the focus of each path differs. Now that I've warned you about the dangers of this mental cultivation technique, do you still wish to continue? The Heavenly Formation Emperor asked with a faint smile. Zhang Luli gripped her jade-like hands tightly, then nodded firmly. Her spiritual energy talent wasn't particularly outstanding, so even if she devoted her whole life to cultivation, she would likely not amount to much. If she wanted to become a true powerhouse and possess the power to protect her clan, she had no choice but to walk the path of a battle formation master. Chen fell silent for a moment, but nodded without hesitation. He too carried many burdens, and in his future, not only would he need to go to the Luo god clan, but he would also have to venture into that mysterious tribe to find his mother. Those places required immense strength, and thus, he needed every method to boost his power. You're quite courageous, the Heavenly Formation Emperor said with a faint smile, clearly satisfied with their resolve. He then continued, since that's the case, let's test whether your mental cultivation technique is compatible with mine. As his voice fell, The Heavenly Formation Emperor waved his hand, and 5 crystal light spheres slowly rose from his palm. Each sphere had a different color, yet they emitted a mysterious glow. Chen and Zhantai Lu Li were immediately captivated, their eyes wide open. These crystal light spheres were likely beyond reach in the outside world. Even with 1,000,000 supreme liquids, they were priceless. Only one of these 5 spheres contains my complete mental cultivation technique. The other 4 were acquired by me in my lifetime, but most of them are incomplete. You too should channel your mental will towards them. If your wills are compatible, the sphere will light up. The Heavenly Formation Emperor looked at them with a gentle smile and added, "As for what you will gain in the end, that depends entirely on your luck." The 5 crystal light spheres hovered in front of Chen and Zhantai Lu Li, their faint, mysterious glow spreading out. The light wasn't intense, but it was enough to dazzle them. Both Chen and Zhantai Lu Li understood very well the immense value hidden within these spheres. Even the top-tier forces of the Northern Domain would fight tooth and nail for them. While it was difficult to become a battle formation master, having these spheres at least provided a chance to cultivate one. If they succeeded in cultivating even a single battle formation master, it would be an enormous gain. Chen stared intently at the 5 crystal light spheres, licking his lips. He exchanged a glance with Zhantai Lu Li, both of them unable to conceal their excitement. "Bring your mental will close to them," the Heavenly Formation Emperor said with a smile. Cultivating mental will cannot be rushed. If your compatibility is low, even if you gain the mental cultivation technique, you will not succeed. Forcing it will only harm your will. So, if you're not destined for it, you will return empty-handed. Upon hearing this, both Chen and Zhantai Lu Li tightened their hearts. They silently thought to themselves, "This battle formation master technique is indeed harsh. Not only is the mental cultivation technique perilous, but it also requires compatibility." However, neither of them had any room to argue. They could only take a deep breath, gradually closing their eyes. Their minds became calm as their mental will flowed out. The world around them turned dark, and their wills surged. Chen soon felt 5 rays of light appear before him. The colors of these rays varied, but all of them emitted mysterious light. Of the 5 rays, the one in the center was the brightest. Clearly, the crystal light sphere in the center contained the complete mental cultivation technique left by the Heavenly Formation Emperor. However, Chen was not surprised by this. After all, the mental cultivation techniques contained in the other 4 crystal orbs, according to what the Heavenly Formation Emperor had said, were also obtained by him accidentally. They were not exclusive to him. Chen's mental will lingered outside the 5 crystal orbs for a moment before heading straight for the central one. Since it contained the most complete mental cultivation technique, he naturally could not ignore it. Regardless of whether it worked or not, he had to try. After all, if it aligned with him, this trip would be worthwhile. Chen's mental will swept through and quickly approached the crystal orb, slowly wrapping around it. However, as Chen's mental will began to wrap around the crystal orb, it remained completely still. Although its glow slightly intensified, it was clear that this still didn't reach the level of compatibility. Chen's attempt to tap into the complete mental cultivation technique left by the Heavenly Formation Emperor directly failed. This situation felt like a bucket of cold water poured over Chen's head, and his heart immediately cooled down. Though he hadn't been completely confident, the utter lack of compatibility was still somewhat frustrating. However, though frustrated, Chen wasn't one to give up easily. He gave a wry smile and withdrew his mental will. Since the complete mental cultivation technique left by the Heavenly Formation Emperor didn't align with him, he would try something else. As Chen retracted his mental will, he sensed another hesitant mental will approach. It clearly belonged to Zhantai Lu Li, who had also realized the significance of this crystal orb. Chen sensed Zhantai Lu Li's mental will and watched as it cautiously wrapped around the cold crystal orb. Buzz. Just as Zhantai Lu Li's mental will made contact with the crystal orb, Chen saw a burst of intense light explode from it. The crystal orb, which had been unmoving under his mental will, now shone brightly like a mini-sun. Chen silently watched this scene. Even though he was somewhat broad-minded, he couldn't help feeling a bit disgruntled. This damn crystal orb had no reaction to him, but now it was so eager for Zhantai Lu Li. Was it biased against him because he was a man? When the crystal orb emitted its intense light, Zhantai Lu Li, overcome with excitement, lost her composure and opened her eyes wide, staring at the orb as it shone brilliantly. Did I succeed? Zhantai Lu Li murmured, her eyes reddening from sheer excitement. Her spiritual energy talent wasn't very high, and if not for the vast resources of the Divine Hall, she might not have even reached the 4th grade supreme. Therefore, she knew that the path of spiritual energy cultivation wasn't suitable for her if she wanted to grow stronger. Only becoming a battle array master could give her the strength she desired. She couldn't imagine how desperate she would have been if this final path had been blocked. The Divine Hall had destroyed her family and forcibly brought her there because they saw her potential and battle intent. If she couldn't become a battle array master, the Divine Hall would likely lose interest in her, and both she and her family would be in great danger. Fortunately, the heavens had not closed all doors for her, and this last path was finally open. Chen also opened his eyes at this moment, gazing at Zhantai Lu Li, whose beautiful eyes were now reddened with excitement. He was momentarily stunned, then fell silent. It seemed that she, too, had some untold story behind her. Clearly, she needed the mental cultivation technique even more than he did. With this thought, the hint of regret in Chen's heart dissipated. Though becoming a battle array master was great, it was not the only path for him. It would simply provide him with more options. So even if he could not become a battle array master, he wouldn't feel despair. Moreover, even if the mental cultivation technique left by the Heavenly Formation Emperor wasn't suitable for him, it didn't mean that other techniques wouldn't align with him. The Great Thousand Worlds were vast, and though mental cultivation techniques were rare, they certainly didn't end with the Heavenly Formation Emperor. It seems that you and I truly are fated, the Heavenly Formation Emperor said, smiling at Zhantai Lu Li. His expression softened even more. Thank you, Senior, Zhantai Lu Li said, her eyes red. As the crystal orb entered Zhantai Lu Li's brow, her delicate body trembled slightly, and her beautiful eyes furrowed, clearly sensing something new entering her mind. I have sealed it within your mind. You can review it at any time. It also contains many of my cultivation experiences, which you can use as reference. I cannot guide you personally, so the path ahead is something you must walk on your own, the Heavenly Formation Emperor said gently. Zhantai Lu Li bent slightly, respectfully saying, Thank you, Master. She had already wisely changed the way she addressed the Heavenly Formation Emperor. In a way, by inheriting his teachings, she had indeed become his successor. Haha. Upon hearing her words, the Heavenly Formation Emperor couldn't help but laugh heartily, nodding repeatedly. Good. I didn't expect that in the twilight of my legacy, I would find such a promising successor. I hope my lineage can flourish through your hands. Zhantai Lu Li nodded obediently, then, feeling slightly awkward, glanced over at Chen. After all, the latter still stood there empty-handed, having gained nothing. The Heavenly Formation Emperor also looked toward Chen. After a moment of contemplation, he said, There are still 4 more crystal orbs here. Why don't you try your luck? These were all acquired by me in the ancient times. Don't think they're just random items I picked up. The techniques within them were once renowned in their own right. If not for their incompleteness, their value would have far exceeded the mental cultivation technique I left behind. Upon hearing this, Chen froze for a moment, then looked at the remaining 4 crystal orbs with surprise. He had originally thought they were just ordinary items, but it turned out they had such a history. Incomplete and not whole. Chen's eyes flickered slightly, then he smiled. Over the years, he had encountered many incomplete things. Even his great son indestructible body was considered a broken version of the eternal immortal body, so he actually felt more attuned to incomplete items. Then I'll give it a try. Chen's mind stirred as he closed his eyes again. His mental will spread out, enveloping the 4 floating crystal orbs before him. Zhantai Lu Li and the Heavenly Formation Emperor watched him closely. They could feel his mental will wrapping around the other 4 crystal orbs and waited quietly. Their wait lasted less than a minute before their expressions suddenly changed. The furthest left crystal orb suddenly burst forth with blinding light. The light from that orb was dark in color, but within that black radiance, bolts of lightning flickered, and the distant sound of thunder could be heard. The Heavenly Formation Emperor's eyes widened when he saw Mu Chen's deep connection with that particular crystal orb. A hint of astonishment flashed across his gaze. Mu Chen opened his eyes at this moment, surprised as he stared at the glowing crystal orb. He waved his hand, and it flew over, slowly landing in his palm. He hesitated for a moment, then grasped the orb. The light from it seeped into his body, and his body trembled violently. In his mind, something seemed to rush in along with the sound of thunder. The roaring thunder echoed, and ancient runes formed from lightning seemed to appear in Mu Chen's mind. 9 Tribulations, Thunder Prison Visualization Technique. 9 Tribulations, Thunder Prison Visualization Technique. Mu Chen slowly opened his tightly shut eyes. The thunderous roar in his mind hadn't fully dissipated, and the ancient lightning characters seemed to burn themselves into his consciousness, leaving a lasting impression. Although he hadn't yet fully explored the so-called 9 Tribulations Thunder Prison Visualization Technique, for some reason, he could faintly sense a violent, oppressive aura spreading throughout his mind. This technique was certainly not ordinary. "I didn't expect you to be so highly attuned to it," the Heavenly Formation Emperor remarked, his tone full of surprise as he looked at Mu Chen. After a pause, he added, "Predecessor, what exactly is the origin of the 9 Tribulations Thunder Prison Visualization Technique?" Mu Chen asked, intrigued. Based on the Heavenly Formation Emperor's reaction, it seemed like the 9 Tribulations Thunder Prison Visualization Technique had quite the remarkable background. The 9 Tribulations Thunder Prison Visualization Technique was left behind by the 9 Tribulations War Emperor from the ancient era. The Heavenly Formation Emperor smiled. Though his voice remained calm, Mu Chen could still detect a certain reverence in it when he spoke of the 9 Tribulations War Emperor. Mu Chen was quite taken aback by this imposing title, but quickly felt embarrassed, as he had no idea what this senior was about or what his role might be. He probably was a battle array master, right? The 9 Tribulations War Emperor was one of the few battle array masters in the ancient era who could reach the 10 million runes level. The Heavenly Formation Emperor said slowly, his eyes filled with longing as he spoke the words 10 million runes. 10 million runes. However, Mu Chen felt a headache coming on from this admiration, as he realized he was completely unfamiliar with the terminology of battle array masters. What on earth was this 10 million runes? It seems you really are a clueless novice who hasn't even entered the battle array master sect. The Heavenly Formation Emperor sighed as he saw the confusion on Mu Chen's face. He shook his head helplessly and continued, "Since you can refine the battle spirit, you should understand that the strength of a battle spirit is determined by the number of battle runes, right?" Mu Chen hesitated for a moment and cautiously asked, "Is it the number of battle runes?" Although he was entirely ignorant of the specifics of battle array masters, he had previously refined the battle spirits for 5 different armies, so he had some inkling. It seemed that the more battle runes a battle spirit had, the stronger it became. The Heavenly Formation Emperor nodded and said, "In ancient times, battle array masters were ranked by the number of battle runes. There are generally 4 levels: the 10,000 runes battle array master, the 100,000 runes battle array master, the million runes battle array master, and the 10 million runes battle array master." Hearing this bizarre ranking system, Mu Chen couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. These battle array masters sure were lazy. Even their ranking system was brutally simple. However, while the system might seem crude, Mu Chen had to admit that it was also very intuitive. However, when we talk about the number of battle runes, it's not the total number of battle runes across all the battle spirits of various armies, the Heavenly Formation Emperor explained. It's the battle runes formed after the total integration of the battle will into one singular battle spirit. Mu Chen froze for a moment, then suddenly understood. It was like when he controlled the 5 armies. Each battle spirit had thousands of battle runes, and if you added them up, they would exceed 10,000. But that didn't mean he was at the level of a 10,000 runes battle array master. Unless he could fully merge the battle spirits of the 5 armies into one and refine that into a single battle spirit with more than 10,000 battle runes, then he would qualify as a true 10,000 runes battle array master. The refining of battle runes gets more difficult as you go along. Zhang Lu Li, who had been silent until now, said softly, "I control the Liuli army, which has 30,000 soldiers, but I've only been able to refine about 9,000 battle runes, far from reaching 10,000. As she spoke, a confident smile appeared on her delicate face. But that's because my mental will has its limits. Once I perfect the mental cultivation technique left by my teacher, becoming a 10,000 runes battle array master shouldn't be too hard. Chen clicked his tongue in amazement. When he controlled the 9 Nether Guard with only 5,000 soldiers, he had managed to refine around 4,000 battle runes. But Zhan Tai Lu Li, with her 30,000 soldiers, could only manage 9,000. This showed that the more soldiers you had, the harder it was to refine battle runes. Still, based on Chen's estimation, if he could control an army as powerful as the Liuli army, he might be able to refine 10,000 battle runes. He could sense that his mental will, due to his background as a spiritual array master, was likely stronger than Zhan Tai Lu Li's. The refining of battle runes depends on 2 factors. One is the number and quality of the army, and the other is the strength of your mental will. The Heavenly Formation Emperor continued to explain to the bewildered Chen. The army represents the battle will, which is essential for a battle array master. Battle will is the foundation for refining battle runes, and the strength of your mental will determines whether you can fully utilize that battle will. Chen nodded. For a battle array master, the army's battle will was like a divine weapon, and the mental will was the power that allowed you to control that weapon. The stronger your mental will, the more powerful the weapon became when wielded. Furthermore, for battle array masters, reaching 10,000 battle runes is a watershed. Once the battle spirit has 10,000 battle runes, its power undergoes a dramatic transformation, transforming battle will into battle seals. Chen asked, a look of surprise on his face, clearly unfamiliar with the concept. Battle seals are a more advanced method of channeling battle will, much like the divine techniques used in spiritual energy cultivation. They allow you to unleash the full potential of battle will. Of course, the myriad battle runes are the foundation of battle array formation. Only after mastering this can one begin to arrange a battle formation. This will greatly enhance your battle will, creating more means of attack. Zhan Tai Lu Li explained from the side. Chen nodded in awe, realizing just how much more versatile battle will could be. When he thought about his previous, clumsy attempts at controlling it, he couldn't help but feel he had much to learn. Generally speaking, once a battle spirit can refine the myriad battle runes, they can rival a 7th grade supreme. If a battle spirit has 50,000 runes, even an 8th grade supreme would be cautious around them. But with 100,000 runes, one could challenge a 9th grade supreme, said the Heavenly Formation Emperor calmly. Chen's pupils constricted, a wave of shock flooding his mind. A battle spirit with 100,000 battle runes could challenge a 9th grade supreme. What kind of terrifying strength would a 10 million runes battle array master possess? Could the 9 Tribulations War Emperor also be strong enough to resist the Heavenly Supreme? With 1,000,000 battle runes, one can rival an Earth Supreme. And a battle spirit with 10 million battle runes would make even the Heavenly Supreme avoid confrontation. That kind of terrifying power could annihilate an entire lower dimension with a mere thought, the Heavenly Formation Emperor said, his face grave. Annihilate a lower dimension. Chen's thoughts raced. He remembered a vision from when he was contemplating the so-called heart of the battle array, a scene in which a 9-headed serpent annihilated an entire lower dimension, destroying countless extraterritorial clans in the process. At the time, Chen hadn't paid much attention to it, but now he realized that the 9-headed serpent battle spirit might have had countless battle runes, perhaps even reaching the 10 million mark. Didn't expect the 9 Tribulations War Emperor to be so formidable, Chen murmured. This kind of existence must have been among the top tiers of the ancient world, one of the great giants of the great thousand worlds. Even though he hadn't received the Heavenly Formation Emperor's inheritance, he had still gained something left behind by such a terrifying figure. However, don't get complacent. The 9 Tribulations Thunder Prison Visualization Technique you obtained is incomplete. It only contains the methods for the first 4 tribulations. The remaining 5 tribulations were lost long ago. Even so, if you manage to refine the first 4, you should have no trouble condensing tens of thousands of battle runes. If you have a particularly high affinity with it, There's even a chance you could reach the million runes mark, the Heavenly Formation Emperor reminded. Tens of thousands of battle runes. Mu Chen thought for a moment. Though he felt a bit disappointed, he wasn't disheartened. If given the opportunity, he could try to find the remaining 5 tribulations cultivation methods. In any case, he knew that mastering the first 4 tribulations would be no small feat, and it would take time. Thank you for your guidance, Senior, Mu Chen said respectfully, cupping his fists in gratitude. Although he hadn't received the Heavenly Formation Emperor's inheritance, the latter had opened the door to becoming a battle array master for him and given him a significant opportunity. This was enough for Mu Chen to feel immense gratitude. The Heavenly Formation Emperor waved his hand. I also owe part of my success in finding a successor to you. Helping you find an opportunity is only right. After saying this, the Heavenly Formation Emperor's face grew weary, and Mu Chen noticed the light in his eyes had dimmed. He realized that the Heavenly Formation Emperor was likely nearing his end. I can't hold on much longer. Before I completely fade away, I'll give you one last gift, the Heavenly Formation Emperor said, forcing a smile. With a wave of his hand, the stone army below stirred, and figures began to rise into the air, eventually transforming into gray light that landed in the Heavenly Formation Emperor's hands. In his hands were 2 stone chessboards, and the figures of the stone army had transformed into intricately carved stone statues, which appeared as chess pieces on the boards. These battle-will divine discs are truly dangerous. My stone army, over 10,000 strong, could only produce 2,000 chess army figures, the Heavenly Formation Emperor said, gazing at the stone statues on the boards with a sigh. He flicked them toward Mu Chen and the others. Each battle-will divine disc contains 1,000 stone soldiers. In times of life or death, you can activate them. Their battle will help you overcome the crisis. But remember, each of these can only be used once. Mu Chen and the others were visibly shaken, but they cautiously took the ancient stone plate and once again bowed respectfully toward the Heavenly Formation Emperor. As they bowed, the Heavenly Formation Emperor nodded with a smile, then slowly leaned against the stone throne. The light in his eyes began to gradually fade, until it completely vanished. When the light in his eyes disappeared, the Heavenly Formation Emperor's body began to turn to stone, eventually becoming a stone statue, sitting quietly upon the stone throne. When Mu Chen and the others looked up, they saw the Heavenly Formation Emperor had turned into a stone statue. Both of them sighed softly, knowing that the elder who had opened the door to the battle array master path for them had now completely vanished from the world. Their eyes filled with murderous intent as they muttered to themselves. These people truly know how to take advantage of every opportunity. Right now, the Great Luo Heaven Domain had 5 armies, all of which were brought into the battle formation. It seemed that they had not yet left. Without the 5 armies, the strength of the Great Luo Heaven Domain would undoubtedly weaken significantly. Although the 9 Nether King and the other kings were stationed here, they would still have a hard time contending with the combined forces of the Divine Hall and the Xintian Palace, the 2 top-tier powers. Miss Zhantai, here we are allies, but once we leave this place, we'll be enemies. I hope you won't hold it against me when that time comes, Mu Chen said, his sharp gaze turning to Zhantai Lu Li as he spoke in a deep voice. Once Zhantai Lu Li takes control of her Liuli army, her power would surely make even Mu Chen wary. If they were to fight, there would be no room for mercy. Although Mu Chen didn't really want to fight with Zhantai Lu Li, their factions were different, and conflict was inevitable. Zhantai Lu Li glanced at Mu Chen, her eyes slightly lowering. I have no gratitude toward the Divine Hall. If it weren't for the circumstances, I wouldn't have been forced to work for them. Mu Chen was taken aback, staring at Zhantai Lu Li in shock. He clearly hadn't expected that she harbored no loyalty to the Divine Hall. My family was originally a small force on the edge of the Divine Hall's territory. Later, when my talent for battle intent was exposed, the Divine Hall sent people to try to recruit me. But I refused, as I didn't want to become part of them. Then, half a month later, a mysterious group attacked my family, causing great casualties. Fortunately, the Divine Hall arrived in time to rescue us. Zhantai Lu Li spoke coldly. When she mentioned being saved by the Divine Hall, her voice became even more frigid rather than softening. Mu Chen frowned slightly. Could that mysterious group have been from the Divine Hall? Yeah, they thought they were flawless, but no wall is without cracks, Zhantai Luli sneered. Afterward, the Divine Hall forcibly brought my family under their control, pretending it was for protection, but in reality, it was surveillance. They forced me to lead their army, and my younger sister was severely injured during that massacre and fell into a death-like state. Only the Nine Heavens Soul Revival Herb in the Divine Hall could save her life, but they refused to give it to me. It was clear they intended to control me for the long term. By the end of her story, Zhantai Lu Li's jade hand was clenched tightly, crimson blood dripping from her pale fingers. Her delicate face was full of deep, uncontrollable hatred. Mu Chun was silent, clearly surprised by Zhantai Lu Li's backstory. It seemed that despite her high status in the Divine Hall, she was not fully trusted by them. Sorry, Mu Chun sighed. Zhantai Lu Li shook her head, suppressing her emotions. But if I can become a battle array master in the future, the Divine Hall will truly value me. At that point, I believe they won't dare to neglect me. Though I feel no attachment to the Divine Hall, this place does offer great resources. To become a battle array master, resources are key. I don't mind enduring humiliation and hardship for now. Once I've truly grown, I'll personally destroy the Divine Hall. Zhantai Lu Li's beautiful face was now icy, and the coldness in her expression made even Mu Chen's heart skip a beat. He couldn't help but think to himself, when a woman becomes ruthless, she can be far more terrifying than a man. The Divine Hall would never imagine that beneath their piles of resources, they had created a venomous beauty who would eventually devour them. Mu Chen pondered for a moment before speaking again. I have no intention of fighting you, because I can sense that even if I control the Liuli army, if I were to engage with you, I would ultimately pay a heavy price. I'm not foolish enough to do something like that. Zhantai Lu Li smiled. Mu Chun was stunned. In such a large-scale battle, Zhantai Lu Li must be one of the strongest forces on the side of the Divine Hall. Would Fong Yi and the others really let her stand by and watch? If I were in perfect condition, they would naturally want me to take action. But what if I'm injured and unable to control the army's battle will? Zhantai Lu Li smiled like a little fox, then suddenly extended her jade hand and slammed it against her chest. Uft! A mouthful of fresh blood sprayed from her rosy lips, and her delicate face immediately turned much paler. This startled Mu Chun, who rushed forward, only to be stopped by a wave of her hand. It's fine, the act needs to be convincing. Zhantai Lu Li smiled, then casually let her black hair fall in disarray, looking quite a bit disheveled. I'll go out first and say that you severely injured me. After all, I didn't bring the Liuli army. With my strength, I truly can't contend with you. No one should suspect anything. Mu Chen stared at Zhantai Lu Li, then took a deep breath. He didn't say much, just nodded lightly, and said, "Thank you. If I have the chance in the future, I'll repay you for this favor." He knew how much help Zhantai Lu Li's actions had provided. Otherwise, if she joined the battle, even if she couldn't defeat him, she would certainly be able to stall him. If that happened, the 9 nether forces would be too weak to contend with the 2 top factions, and they would undoubtedly suffer heavy losses. I can't help much. Even if I don't intervene, just with your great Luo Heaven domain, it will still be difficult to fight against the combined forces of the Divine Hall and Xintian Palace. So, after you go out, your situation won't be any better, Zhantai Lu Li said. Mu Chen nodded. His gaze grew sharper. Don't worry. If they want to swallow us, the great Luo Heaven domain, they'll find it hard to bite through us with just Fong Yi and the others. Zhantai Lu Li smiled faintly, the bloodstains on her lips only making her already alluring face even more captivating. However, she didn't say anything more, simply waving her jade hand at Mu Chun. Let's get moving. As her voice fell, her delicate figure transformed into a streak of light and shot out first. Behind her, Mu Chun stood still for a moment, then pushed his speed to its limit and followed with a surge of energy. The two of them swiftly arrived at the place where they had entered earlier, and the space there was now distorted. In the next moment, they both dashed out like lightning. As they exited, the space around them fell silent once more. No one would be able to enter again, and everything here would gradually be erased by the passage of time. Whoosh! When Zhantai Lu Li and Mu Chun emerged from the space, a storm of battle cries immediately greeted them. The entire world seemed to be filled with raging battle will, surging through the air. They appeared inside the four-spirit battle formation once again. But this time, the formation was clearly on the verge of collapse, and the four battle spirit guardians had already vanished. Upon appearing, Chen immediately saw 5 armies from the Great Luo Heaven Domain trapped within the Black Tortoise formation. Because they had lost his control, they were unable to form battle spirit guardians, and they couldn't even break free from the crumbling four-spirit battle formation. On the other hand, the 2 other formations, the Azure Dragon and Vermilion Bird formations, were empty. Xiao Tian and the other 3 armies had clearly broken through and left. So Xiao Tian has gone out as well, Chen muttered, his gaze sharpening. Beyond the shattered four-spirit battle formation, Chen could see violent bursts of spiritual power erupting. Beams of light tore through the sky, crashing into each other in a fierce battle that shook the very heavens. Faintly, Chen could make out several figures surrounded by enemies, and they were unmistakably from the Great Luo Heaven Domain. Seeing this, his eyes immediately turned cold. Zhantai Lu Li, who was ahead, also noticed this and immediately gave Chen a glance, signaling him. She then shot toward the direction of the Liuli army with swift speed. At the same time, her sharp and vengeful voice echoed through the sky. The sharp sound of hatred rang out, causing the chaotic battle in the distance to momentarily pause. Countless gazes hurriedly turned toward the source, eventually converging on the figure of Chen. At that moment, waves of shocked exclamations filled the air. Chen actually came out. He even injured Zhantai Lu Li of the Divine Hall. Chen heard the astonished cries echoing across the heavens and earth, his face turning icy cold. In an instant, his figure moved, appearing directly within the shattered Black Tortoise formation. At that moment, the 5 armies were anxiously staring outside the battle formation, clearly surrounded by the various kings. King. Upon seeing Chen, the 5 armies erupted in wild joy, as if they had finally found a pillar of support. Chen nodded coldly, then raised his hand. His voice, laced with killing intent, rang out sharply.